Hey folks, welcome to the first video of 2025 over here on my channel. So I want to wish everyone a happy new year. I hope that the transition is being superbly gentle with you, and if it's not, I wholeheartedly understand, and hopefully some good old tarot discussion and joy will be a nice distraction for you. I wanted to come in with my winter seasonal deck edit. It's been something that I've been trying throughout the year. If you've been following along, you'll know I have a spring edit, a summer edit, I have a late summer to early fall transition edit, because sadly I didn't get to doing another fall one like I'd intended, but I am back with a winter one, albeit a tiny little bit late. Not too much though. For me, I follow the Sabbats, so winter kicked in around the 21st, and of course the end of year festivities meets chaos took up a lot of time. I have chosen decks, but I have broken my run of 13. There are less decks here. I just didn't feel a call to anymore, and I really didn't want to force it. For those who are seeing this video and you haven't seen any of the others, 13 just sort of become a number that I stuck with. Not all the decks tend to get used, and of course when I'm doing client readings and other stuff, I might use other decks. But the seasonal deck edit, in summary, is things I'm feeling called to work with in winter, and also decks that are meeting me with wintry vibes. It could be energetically, it could be visually, and like I say, it just might not make sense to you at all. We will see. Some of them make reappearances throughout the seasonal months and many others don't. So we're gonna jump right in with the ones that have easy pairings, and then we'll get to the decks that I'll probably use solo. First up, we have the Somnia Tarot and the Seashell Oracle. The Somnia Tarot is one that I've had for a while now and kind of missed using, I'll be honest. I'm not gonna lie. And I've used the Somnia Tarot with the Mushroom Oracle before in the past and found it really successful. These decks are really sticky, however. And I've also used it with the Memento Mori Oracle really well as well. But I like the art styles, the collages, and how this deck series complements the Somnia Tarot overall. I have briefly used it with the Flower Oracle. I feel like the Seashell Oracle is going to be a better fit just because of the landscapes that we see in the Somnia. The Seashell is a little bit more uplifting and in places kind of spring summery, but the overall vibes were working beautifully together. And I haven't had a chance to work with the Seashell Oracle since I got it last year, not really. So I thought it would be a prime opportunity to put them to the test together. And I've kind of missed the Somnia Tarot. When I have a break from it, it is one that I notice that it's not there. Let's have a look. So we've got the Page of Swords with Magnificence, Aspiration and Ascent. I love that. The idea of Ascent with a page feels especially fitting because it's like the page is about to go on quite an adventure. It gives me that sensation. They're not quite there yet like the knights, but it's that kind of feeling. And then I feel like the pages are pretty aspirational overall, so I like that for the swords. Also, this is quite a moody depiction, so I feel like they're going to work quite well together. I love that the warm colours here are meeting the colours of the coins, so they might not be an obvious pairing, but I think we've kind of discovered, at least in the last 4 seasons now that I've covered, that a lot of the time it's as much about the vibes as it is about the aesthetics. The Hierophant with force, repercussion and movement. One of the things I will say for those who haven't seen me do these videos before is that I don't always just pull one tarot and one oracle. I will probably pull more tarot from them, Oh, look, sorry, I got distracted because the plankton, all of the sort of, I'm just going to call them tendrils, like lovely little swirly bits coming off of these here, really made me think of all of these ropes on the devil. And I feel like the colours and the idea of like, well, I suppose they're not mirroring each other, they're contrasting each other, because here we've got lightness moving into dark and it's sort of concentrated, whereas here we've got darkness, but if you look out into the cave opening, it sort of moves out into a lighter openness. So multitudes, very fitting. Invisibility, collective. Ooh, I love that. I totally distracted myself. I think I was saying, yes, I'll pull more tarot than I will from the oracle, but it's a very kind of open practice that I have, and just a kind of experiential process with these anyway. So yeah, this is these two together. I feel like they're a pretty good fit, to be fair, and I'm sure I'm not the first person who's tried them either. So I'd love to hear your thoughts if you have tried these two together. I've had a little shuffle around. I'm contending with a lot of glare with this table in the new house, and lighting is a challenge, but please bear with me. Our next pairing is the Black Salt Tarot and then the Citadel Oracle. Two decks of which I've really enjoyed using when I've used them, but I don't feel like I've used them enough. And I had definitely pegged the Black Salt for winter, and I don't really know why, other than it makes sense that I'm going to need a little bit of a lift in the winter season. I struggle with it particularly. It's created a lot of pain. I'm having a really difficult time with that at the moment anyway, and yeah, I'm very much a broken record. It's like winter hits and my health is not fun. And so I was thinking about ones that I would want to pair with this, because I do have the Black Salt Lenormand, which I can use as an oracle, but I really wanted to use the Citadel. The Citadel feels like it would fit whatever season, but I'm liking it for winter because it has this very sort of playful game world feeling to it, and especially when I'm missing gaming and sort of too sore to settle in and have a good game, it's quite nice to come to this deck and have something that almost feels like tabletop card style play. And one thing that I like about these two together, although I don't think I'd have used them together years ago, just because we've got the really warm coppers and then we've got the really cool, well, it looks like silver, but it's actually hollow. I don't know if it's been, picking it up when we're moving. So it's got the rainbow, so there, we got a bit of copper dancing around in there. But they feel very contrasting to me in terms of like cold and warm. However, thematically, I feel like one of the things that Logan did beautifully with the Black Salt is add a game-like facet into it. It gives Zelda vibes, it gives Sailor Moon. I'm trying to think of other things, because I appreciate not all of that is gaming either. Some of it is various anime, or they're sort of, I guess, nerdy things that I combine together. And I had a little play around with them yesterday when I was sort of firming up my winter choices, and I felt like they actually spoke to each other really, really well. And again, with a card either side from the Black Salt, it looks lovely together as well, I'm not gonna lie. So I think that they're gonna be a fun pairing, but it will be sort of a process of experience. And what you'll notice is that a fair amount of the pairings that I'm going to show you, if not all, I haven't actually used them together before. So it's quite an experimental one for the winter season. I think that I needed that. My tarot practice went a little bit quiet towards the end of the year. So yeah, we're gonna have a go and see what they're like together. We've got the Three of Wands with the Painter, so productivity in creation. I mean, that feels pretty damn fitting to me, does it not? What else? Let's have a look-see. So we've got the Six of Swords and then the Acolyte, which is new projects and learning. And I definitely see the Six of Swords as as a movement into another layer of something. It might be a new level as opposed to a whole new experience, but they definitely feel very fitting for me. There's that sort of growth shift that we see from the sixes overall. I mean, I shouldn't really try and read them, but I'm quite excited to read these two together. These will probably be the two that I try today because I feel like I need the energy. So the next two, we have a bit of a little and large thing going on here, but bear with me. And there's also a third deck that I may or may not use with these and some of the other decks. So I will bring that out in a second as well. This is a completely new to me deck. My dear friend sent me a copy and they also have a copy, so that's really cool. So we're exploring it together, and as you can see, it is absolutely massive. I usually avoid massive decks. I have to say, the linen cardstock on this makes it a hell of a lot easier to deal with, and the artwork was one of those opportunities that I didn't want to miss out on because it is very, very me, and I can see why they asked me if I wanted a copy. I don't know that I'm going to pronounce the name correctly, so I'm just going to put it on here as well. 𝗕𝗿𝗄𝗎𝗄𝗏 Tarot. I'm sure I've got that completely wrong, so apologies. And then here we have what's called the Here and Now Oracle, and I've mentioned this deck quite a few times. Now, the reason that I like these two together, and maybe I'll just flick through a couple first and then I will show you a layout, is because I'm really just getting to know this deck. And honestly, I couldn't find any oracles that I felt like were complementary enough with the art style. I had tarots, but not oracles. And because it's a new to me deck, really, I don't know the energetic experience I've got with it. All I've got to go on is the aesthetic and how I was feeling about it. And I really just felt like everything that I put next to it was tarot-wise was contending with it. Oracle just, it wasn't fitting for me. And the Here and Now is a really interesting approach to an oracle, which I have found incredibly versatile, and I feel like it really opens up the way that you can read with them. So it's all RE words, as you might have already seen. It's not in alphabetical order, it just is all of those. And this sort of spacious idea of adding a keyword to it, I thought would be just really, really powerful. Perhaps I should have popped them upside down. So look, 5 of Wands, recover. And in that instance, if I was just to pull those two together, or I had a bigger spread that was sort of speaking about this 5 of Wands energy, it's almost like then in this instance, it's a message of what to do with this experience. Like, this is what we're recovering from. It changes and really shapes and adds that nuance that I enjoy about adding more than one deck together. It feels like advice in this instance, which I would happily take and receive. So I feel like, yeah, they're quite complementary together. And then there's the added bonus, which if you're a Patreon of mine, then you'll have seen this in action, where I actually use this deck as a way of creating spreads or sort of forming prompts to a tarot reading. Obviously, I would shuffle it, but in this instance, it's probably only going to make space for 2. We've got resource and relief. And so I would pull 2 cards. So for resource, I've got 2 of Cups. And for relief, I've got Ace of Wands. And you cannot see them. And there we go. So that is how I would work with this spread. Now, I'm not going to go into all of it because this is not what that video is for. If you want to see that, then yeah, either check out my Patreon or perhaps I can do a mini quick version of it at another time. But I feel like they work really, really well together. And the great thing about having the Here and Now as a winter seasonal choice is that I can use it with other decks as well. This can definitely be a buddy up with various pairs. I do like to use 3 or 4 decks together sometimes. It's quite hard to show here. When I bring back my monthly wrap-up videos, which is something that I'm planning to do for 2025, so spoiler, then I'll show you just some little snippets of the things that I've used together, even if they have been like 3 or 4 decks or more. So a deck that I vowed to use more this year as an oracle and not just as an extension of my animal gnosis practice on Patreon is the Woodland Wardens oracle. This is an animal and plant deck, and I'm sure most of you are very familiar with it because it's superbly popular. Now, as I say, I'm not sure how these two will pair together, but this deck will go with many of my choices. And one of the things that I did like was that there are some sort of very antlery things going on in this deck, in particular in the tarot. There's a lot of play with black backgrounds in the Wardens, or really tan ones, so the colours thematically, for the most part, here we see the opposite of that, but for the most part felt like they really worked well together. And this tarot's so spacious in what's going on that I don't feel like the oracle deck is really contending with too much. Like an animal oracle deck commonly isn't one that I will use with an animal tarot. There are exceptions to that rule, but for the most part, yeah, I just feel like these two might work very well together. And rather than going into a really deep animal gnosis exploration, I'd really just take a simplistic message from the Woodland Wardens. So here the Empress is giving me strength, and I'm really leaning into that. And I love the elk for this. Also, dig in the warm brown tones that came up in both of those. Of course, colours aren't always going to be a thing in this pairing, but you know that I enjoy that. The 5 of Swords, protection with the skunk and magnolia. So in this case, mental protection. What am I allowing to come into the way that I'm thinking? And also, am I communicating really defensively? I think would be another facet of that for me. So can you see what I mean? I don't know. I feel like these two, I'm kind of quietly hopeful about them. And I felt like the Woodland Wardens is a good all year deck. So it kind of fits the winter season. I work with animals all the time, and I did promise myself that I would work with it more as is intended. So we've got 3 more decks. How to do this. I've got 2 more tarot and an oracle, which yes, brings us to around 10, right? 3 shorter. There's actually 2 decks that I'm studying, exploring, and doing a particular sort of layer of practice with. And I've been doing that in the background for several months now. Honestly, it started before the winter season, and also it wasn't really a winter vibe, either energetically or visually. So I haven't included those 2 decks in, because when I do my first January wrap up, I'll share those 2 decks there and tell you a little bit about what I've been up to with them and why. So technically I'm still sort of looking at 12 decks. It's just 2 of them really weren't a part of the seasonal edit. So I've opted for showing you the 2 tarot decks together because I did think about using them together in a few instances, and you'll understand why when I introduce the deck. So this is the Anima Mundi tarot, and it is one that I've used with various other decks like Earthbound Oracle, Seekers the Normand, Oracle of Odysseys, Memento Mori Oracle, which I have to the side to show you at the end. So it does work with others. My copy of this has a kind of bluish tinge to it across the board. I mean, it's quite a blue deck anyway, but it does throw me off sometimes when putting it with some of the very stark white decks. Really strange. I don't understand why it throws me off, but in this instance, it does a little bit. Now, next to it, we've got the 𝗕𝗿𝗄𝗧 tarot, which is one perhaps less of you are familiar with. And this works very well as a tarot deck for me. I have no difficulties reading with it. I don't tend to want an oracle deck with it too often, and I think that's because of how it's styled. So you can see really quickly that there is 1 key focus per card, and one of the strengths that this tarot deck can do is switch into an oracle deck really quickly. So I did actually think that 2 of these and 1 of this would work quite nicely together. And you could, if you wanted to, ignore the 4 of Pentacles. I don't have the capacity to do that, so it would still just be like a standard tarot reading across the board using 2 decks. But I do feel like there's just something more oracle-like and archetype-like inherently in the making of this deck, which is very obvious. Chances are I will predominantly use them alone. However, I don't know, I am quite liking the idea of 2 from this one and 1 from this. I feel like it could be fun. Look at that as well. The 4s, 4 of Wands, 4 of Cups. Now that would be a lovely pull. Oh, and I love here that we've got the fox come up and then the dog. And here, what's really interesting is even though the rosemary is just a sprig, it sort of feels like it's mimicking the trees and the forest in the world. Actually, they're working quite well together already. So let's get to why anyway. Why? I feel like the 𝗕𝗿𝗄𝗃 tarot, it has that whole monochrome, black and white, stark. It doesn't feel stark energetically to me, but the visual experience that I have with it, it feels like how I experience winter, especially because it's just so dark here most of the time at the moment. Light feels like such a gift and so fleeting in comparison in the winter. And it's a deck that I've wanted to work with again more, and I do have these moments with it, but it hasn't really been into rotation in a regular way, so I'm giving it the opportunity through the winter season to do that. And then the Anima Mundi one is one that I often find myself randomly picking it up and reading for myself, and I have a really good experience with it when I do. But I haven't spent a lot of time bonding with it. And it was a deck that was on my wish list for the longest time. So even though I have these really meaningful readings with it, and my granddad actually read for me with it as well, not this Christmas, last Christmas, which was really fun. And that was quite a hitting reading, although it was more him than the deck, but it gave me that little extra fondness, I guess, for it. So I wanted to give both of these tarot their time in a more focused capacity. And that's what some of this seasonal experiment, I guess, has been about. So winter will bring me a full 4 seasons. And after that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to reflect on whether I feel like this is a good thing to try again for the next 4 seasons, or whether I might want to move it to a more microcosmic scale, so perhaps choosing decks per month, which I've seen people do. I do feel like it helps me to make those choices beforehand, and I am really enjoying that type of structure though, because as I say, it's not like I stop myself from using the others. I've got a big collection and it's really bringing some nice focus and experience into my practice, and also helping me in a roundabout way to work out over time what's not getting used. And it becomes far more obvious, I feel, over the course of the year. Oh, I love this because it feels so piercing in the horn. And then here we've got a very, very stark depiction of the 5 of Pentacles in particular. So I think these two are going to be a fun experiment together, but mostly they will get used on their own. However, I would be curious how many of you enjoy using multiple tarot decks together. And so you get to see them in action together, I decided to show you the Memento Mori with the Anima Mundi tarot. As I say, I'm not sure about how other people might experience these, but for me, because I'm so bonded to the Memento, it kind of just works with everything. It doesn't get a choice, if that makes sense. It's become like a language extension in the way that I divine or whatever it is that I'm doing. But I still really love these two together. The moth definitely feels like an animal that could also be representative of the High Priestess, also the moon. So I feel like there's some complementary energies coming in here with these two predominantly nocturnal animals. Of course, we've got some upside down because it's me. This just makes me chuckle and think of Buffy the Vampire Slayer immediately, not just because it was out of the vampire set, but also it's under the light of the moon is when we're going to need our wooden stake the most. And we've literally got knife with the 4 of swords. I feel like they are a working pairing. And I love that we've got the lush greenery here from the crown around the 7. Also, I definitely have a card somewhere in one of my decks that has the elephant as the emperor. And that's the vibe that I got there, like, immediately. Which is funny because usually the crown gives me more queen vibes. Don't ask me why. It's just a weird connection that I have. And with these, if I use these together, I'll probably go to my expanded version of one of my Patreon or spreadbook spreads, which is kind of a daily spread, so that it's nice and easy for you if you would like to do it daily. I tend to do it perhaps a couple of times throughout the week, not necessarily every day. Oh, loving these two together, especially where the 𝗕𝗁 is black in this instance. And so it was originally a 3-card spread, but I pull 6 cards, so I do the positions twice, 3 from the tarot, 3 from the oracle, and it's been working really, really well. I posted a picture of me doing it with the Witch Sister and this deck on my Instagram. So that's probably the plan for those. And we've moved back into the upside down, so I think that's it's a good time to finish up. So yeah, there you have it. That is my winter seasonal edit. I am really hoping to be a little bit more regular this year. I say this in the midst of currently tackling a new health issue, and to be quite frank, having a really, really hard time with pain and being in a very difficult place. So whilst I've been working on plans and structures for here and Instagram and Patreon, which, as you can imagine, takes up a lot of time, as well as working with therapy clients still, I'm hopeful that what I'm experiencing, at least to the degree that I am, is temporary. It may not be, but for now, I will share some of the plans I have coming up. I definitely want to, like I say, return to doing some monthly wrap-ups. I would like to obviously join in with more VRs, more reviews of decks, but I'm also thinking about doing some other stuff, you know, some more pairing videos, because that seems to be really well received and I enjoy sharing my practice that way with you. I would say if you've got any things that you would love to see from YouTube in particular from me, please do tell me. Comment below and let me know if there's any videos that you've missed or things that you'd love me to speak on that perhaps I don't. Myself and Dawn will continue our video series as well, Tarot Beyond Tradition, and that will flip-flop between my channel and hers. So the next one will actually be on Dawn's channel. So yeah, hopefully my body will allow me some respite and some ease again at some point, at least more ease than I'm getting now, and I can bring those plans to fruition. So definitely keep an eye on the channel, because yeah, I'm hoping to at least be here monthly. To what degree we'll see. If you want more of me, then you know my Patreon. But yeah, get your ideas, requests, thoughts and musings down in the comments, please. I do read them all, and as of now I'm still managing to keep up with pretty much all comments as well. So thank you for being here other than that. And yeah, I look forward to catching up with you all as the new year unfolds. Bye.